Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we review Elijah Craig Toasted Rye. This is going to be a fun one, I think. Run the video. All right then folks, thank you for joining us for another new and as always exciting episode here on the Whiskey Cove, where we will be reviewing Elijah Craig Toasted Rye. So this is a new release from Heaven Hill Distillery and a new addition to the Elijah Craig lineup. It kind of looks like the toasted bottle that Elijah Craig puts out. It is this bottle, the toasted bottle that they have. This is the toasted bourbon. However, they brought the toasted rye out. So I'm also told as well that they might be bringing a toasted barrel proof rye and a toasted barrel proof bourbon. So definitely keep the eyes out for that. However, on today's episode, we will just be reviewing the rye here. As you can see, I've already cracked open this bottle. I don't want to share too much of my thoughts just yet, and we'll get into that review very, very quickly. With that being said, today's episode is sponsored, and that is sponsored by Lytmi. So this is a company that come up with some really ingenious ways of creating really great headphones. These are the headphones that they are here, and they're not quite like your traditional headphone. And I'll tell you why. Because they just sit around the ear and just on top of the earlobe. Traditionally, headphones go really inside the ear, and that can be a little bit aggravating for some folks at home. And I know when I'm working out, that can be a little bit unpleasant as well. So it comes in this really fun box here. You can almost like an Apple iPad or earbud box. And that also comes with a Type-C charger here and a user manual there as well. And then the headphones sit inside of this awesome little plastic to-go lightweight container. So this charges it as well. So you plug this in with a Type-C and it charges the battery that's in this pack. And then you pull this open, and then you also have two lovely, beautiful wireless headphones in here. So you have a left and then you also have a right here. So it kind of goes around the back, has a really nice little bit of weight, and then it just sits on the ear just like that. Like I said, it's Bluetooth compatible with all cell phones and all different features of different TVs and laptops that have Bluetooth installed in them. It has a lot of touch features there on the ears, on these pieces here. And the battery life on these is pretty fantastic there as well. And a couple of features about this. So this has a crystal clear call. So if you want to make a call to a family or a friend member, they're going to hear you crystal clear like you're using your phone. It has a really nice silicone wrap that I said goes behind the ear. And then also it is water resistant as well. So you're at the gym, you're sweating a lot, you're out and about, there might be a little bit of rain. This is going to stand up to those weather conditions. And then also as well, this has 24 hours worth of music time. So if you're playing music for 24 hours, once you're charging them off of this, it's going to give you 24 hours of time. So thank you to Lytmi for sponsoring this video. You'll find a little bit more information about them in the link down below, and there is also a link to go and get yourself a pair. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video. We will get back to the whiskey review right now. All right, let's pour this whiskey in the glass here, and just kind of looking at the bottle, like I said, exactly the same as the toasted bourbon, but it has those traditional kind of green labels that have become oh so synonymous with rye whiskey. Toasted rye on the top, toasted rye there. It is much like its bourbon counterpart, 47% ABV or 94 proof. Looking at the whiskey here, it does look a little bit of hue of copper, but there's definitely a big dark kind of a brown beer note to it as well. And there is maybe a little bit of a kind of reddish hue hiding in there too. Kind of sticks to the glass quite nice. Let's go in for a nose here. I do get a little bit of mint, a little bit of that eucalyptus you might get for some ryes. But what this whiskey does really well is it has a really nice toasted pecan, like some toasted nutty note, but it's really sweet, so a little bit of like brown sugar and cinnamon dust on top there. It's really pleasant on the nose, nothing abrasive, and nothing that's going to sting your nose hairs. Really pleasant, really subtle, but there's some really nice rich flavors running through this. Nice little bit of wood there as well. And definitely a little bit of that peppercorn and that rolled rye spice note here. A really interesting nose there. And it really goes to say that the richness, the sweetness from here, so far from the nose, is really balancing out that kind of eucalyptus and that spicy note here. Great job on the nose so far. Let's go in for a taste. Much like the nose, there's a real sweet richness on the palate too, but it's also spicy as well. There's a couple of little things going on here. A really nice new toasted wood note there that kind of lightens it up through it. It doesn't get weighed down like a really hard aged wood can do with some of these whiskeys, and then you get like a lot of tannin notes. You don't really get that in this. You get more of just the wood presence. And then moving on with that, you get more of the sweetness, that brown sugar, almost feeling a little bit like molasses. Molasses being like burnt brown sugar. So those sort of flavors come together really well with that wood note. And as some of that sweetness dies off, then that kind of wave of spice comes in here. Let's go in for another taste. A little tree sappy as well. Maybe that's coming from the minty eucalyptus. And I've used the term like spearmint on the channel before because it's more vanilla-y, but I wouldn't say this is more spearmint. I would say this is a little bit more of eucalyptus and a little bit more of that abrasive minty note, but it's just sitting there a little subtle. It's not kind of overpowering at all. So yeah, a little bit sappy, a little bit of that tree resiny note, and then with that spice at the end, that rye spice really steps up a little bit, so it doesn't continue to be too sweet. The rye really helps it because this bottle doesn't have a lot of ABV. It doesn't have a lot of proof, so it needs something there to help balance out the sweeter notes there. And I think that rye spice comes just to the right time in the mid palate, and then that kind of takes you on to a longer finish, because at that point the wood is kind of almost dissipated. You do get a little bit more of that sweetness that kind of lingers round on the palate. That helps that transition into the spice and kind of just makes it, you know, just sit down, simmers down a little bit so it just doesn't get too much. And again, a little bit more of that eucalyptus on the palate. Mouthfeel on this is super rich, really nice and oily. So far I've been pretty impressed by this bottle of whiskey, considering I think I paid about $50 for it. I got this from the Heaven Hill distillery when I was down in Kentucky not so long ago. I was happy that I was able to got it, able to pick it up. And also a big shout out to the folks at Heaven Hill, because whilst I was there, we had some really great hospitality, especially by the front of house team who were kind of handling all the bottle sales and at the gift shop. All those folks did a really great job. And especially Jeremy, who was there as well. He had really great hospitality and he always seemed to have time to answer some of the questions and be readily available for us if we kind of had a little bit of a question about this bottle of whiskey specifically. He was able to tell us a little bit more information than kind of what we already knew. So kudos to the Heaven Hill people for doing that. With that being said, let's get into the two main factors here. That is, of course, value for money and score out of 100. So value for money, A through F. So for about $50, $55, I think this is an A. I really like this bottle of whiskey. There's not too many bottles of this type out there. What is that, like a double barreled or toasted whiskey? The one that really springs to mind is the Sagamore Double Oaked. That's a phenomenal offering and a really great kind of display on what double oaked rye can be. And I think this is, I wouldn't say it's as good as that bottle because that's an elite bottle in my opinion. However, I would say this is a great representation of that genre, if you like. So value for money, I'm going to give that, like I said, an A, which is awesome. If you're able to find one of these for around $50 to maybe even $60, I would definitely think about picking up. I think maybe 60 is a little bit too much, but if you're having trouble finding it, and you want to buy it as a one-time thing, then I would definitely say 60 is okay. Moving on, score of 100, 100 being the absolute best bottle of whiskey you'll ever have, 1 being a drain pour, something you cannot drink. So what score would I give this? I'm going to give this a 78 out of 100, which is a pretty good score. That's only 22 away from being a perfect whiskey, if you like. I think this definitely hits above its price tag a little bit there. I would love to see if that rumor was true that they're coming out with a barrel-proof version of this, because I think that could be lights out in terms of, that's the only thing you're probably missing from there. With a barrel-proof toasted rye, you're gonna get a little bit more of that heat, but then you're also gonna get some sweet and some more wood that are kind of gonna come together and hopefully make for really special whiskey. So 78 out of 100 is just about as good as you can hope for from the genre, and probably then some. So really great job to Heaven Hill, and it's awesome to see the Elijah Craig lineup expanding once again. With that being said, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you to today's sponsors Lytmi for being able to make this video happen, and some other videos that we'll be seeing here in the future. As we say on this channel, as we drink through the world's whiskies one glass at a time. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.